Steve Nash is one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, making a career out of being unstoppable in the passing game and being an extremely efficient basketball player. However, there is a lot of people who discredit him due to his lack of NBA titles and call his MVPs fraudulent. However, I would like to take a look at Steve Nash's entire NBA career, show that there's more than what meets the eye, and see how good he was actually. Steve Nash would play college basketball at Santa Clara University. During his time with the program, he would average 15 points with 4.5 assists on 40% from 3. However, during his college career, the Broncos would never make it past the second round of the NCAA tournament. They would finish well above 500 3 of his 4 years with the squad, but they just couldn't pull it together in the NCAA tournament. After receiving his college degree, Steve Nash decided it was time to take his talents to the big leagues, declaring for the 1996 NBA draft, one of the most stacked draft classes and youngest draft classes in the history of the NBA. 14 teams passed on Steve Nash before the Phoenix Suns would select him at number 15, pairing him with a young Jason Kidd and veterans like AC Green and Hot Rod Williams to mentor him. As a rookie, Steve Nash wouldn't play very much. He played behind Jason Kidd almost all the time, and he averaged around 10 minutes a night. However, when year 2 came around, he would increase in playing time. This time, he would be bumped up to 21 minutes per game, but the Suns would still not make it out of the first round. Steve Nash would eventually get traded to the Dallas Mavericks. With the Mavericks, he would start to perfect his craft, but he would end up dealing with some injuries throughout. By the time his third year in Dallas came around, he would be starting all 70 of his games and would start to show flashes of what he would become. He averaged 15.5 points with 7 assists a night and would shoot 40% from 3, this being his 4th of his 5-year career thus far to do that. As a Dallas Maverick, he would make 2 NBA All-Star teams, and the Mavericks would make it as far as the 2003 Western Conference Finals, where they would lose to the San Antonio Spurs. Steve Nash would enter the 04 free agent class at the age of 30. The Mavericks would offer him a deal that would give him around $9 million with a partial year guaranteed in year 5. However, Steve Nash's former team would come calling, and Mark Cuban would not be able to match that contract, as he would be offered a 6-year, $63 million deal, and Nash couldn't help but accept it. It was in Phoenix where Steve Nash would actually reach his peak, immediately skyrocketing his assist numbers, this time to a league-leading 11.5. He would also get more efficient from the field, a career-high 50% from the field, and the Phoenix Suns lived off the fast break. If Steve Nash was running down the court and could not find an open teammate, he would take it to the rim. On the other hand, if he was taking it to the rim and couldn't shoot it, he would flip it to a teammate charging in the paint. Steve Nash would also have some youth on his team to assist him, no pun intended, those being a 23-year-old Amari Stoudemire, a 26-year-old Sean Marion, and a 23-year-old Joe Johnson for just 1 season. This signing was the best thing the Phoenix Suns could have done. They went from being dead in the water, horrible expectations, winning just 29 games, all the way up to 62 wins, and Steve Nash would take home his first ever regular season MVP award. The Phoenix Suns would also be the far best team in the Western Conference, and would sweep the Grizzlies in round 1 before taking down the Mavericks in round 2 in just 6 games. They would have a Western Conference Finals appearance against the San Antonio Spurs, but would get gentlemen swept. However, this Phoenix Suns team had amazing potential. You have to keep in mind they did win only 29 games in the previous year, and they're scraping their way all the way to the Western Conference Finals. In the 2005-06 NBA season, Steve Nash would win his 2nd straight MVP, would average a career-high 19 points per game, and would lead the league in assists for the 2nd straight year. The Phoenix Suns were heading into a playoff series against the LA Lakers. They wouldn't have Amari Stoudemire as they lost him previously in the season. However, it looked up for the Phoenix Suns as they would win Game 1. However, the Lakers would storm back and win 3 straight, and it looked like all hope was lost. There were not many teams who came back from being down 3-1, but the Phoenix Suns were about to stamp their name in the history books. They would win the next 3, a glorious victory in Game 7, 121-90 was the final score, and they were off to round 2 against the Los Angeles Clippers. Just like the last series, this series would also go to 7 games, except this one was a little bit more back and forth, and the Phoenix Suns would eventually win, but unfortunately in the Western Conference Finals, they would take on a much more talented Mavericks team, and they would lose in unfortunate fashion in 6 games. Steve Nash would once again be denied from an NBA Finals appearance, this time against his former team. In the next couple of years, Steve Nash would perform pretty good in the regular season, but whenever the playoffs came around, the Suns just kind of fell apart. In 2007 and 2008, they would go and play the Spurs in the Western Conference playoffs, and they would lose both times, and they would completely miss the playoffs as a whole in 2009. However, the Phoenix Suns, especially Steve Nash, had a little bit more left in the tank. In the 2009-10 season, Steve Nash would lead the NBA in assists per game at the age of 35. He would also play a huge role in the Suns' 54-28 season, and after beating the Blazers in the first round, it was time to get revenge, and they would get revenge on the Spurs by sweeping them in round 2. They would face the Lakers in the 2010 Western Conference Finals, and the Lakers would end up taking a 2-0 series lead before the Suns came storming back and winning the next 2. However, the Suns' efforts would prove to be just that, an effort, because they would lose the final 2 games, losing the series in 6 Phoenix and being sent home once again. Eventually, the Phoenix Suns would stop having a lot of regular season success as Steve Nash was getting relatively old. He would eventually find himself into a Lakers jersey, and that just really didn't work. They tried to make the best pick and roll players in the league get together, but Kobe was old, Steve Nash was pushing 40, and Dwight was lazy this year, and it really didn't work, and that's where Steve Nash wrote his career out. He played 2 seasons there and got injured in the preseason after announcing his retirement. The last game he played was a preseason game in 2014. Taking that all into consideration, the question is, how good was Steve Nash actually? I think I would give him an A. I don't give him an A+ because he didn't make it to an NBA Finals. But during his prime, he was dangerous. One of the best fast break players in the league, and arguably one of the best fast break players of all time. He succeeded in that very fast-paced offense Phoenix was running due to his insane passing ability, and he will go down as one of the greatest point guards in the history of the NBA. Please let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my conclusion. With that, I will see you on the next video. I made a video about Hakeem Olajuwon if you want to go check it out. I will see you all later. Have a nice rest of your day, night, wherever you are. Goodbye.